Hey there, I'm Jim. Back in '68, I was trudging through the jungles of Vietnam with my unit. Never thought I'd make it home. But I did. Survived firefights, monsoons, and things I still don't talk about. Then 50 years later, I almost lost my foot. Not to a landmine or enemy fire, but to something I'd been ignoring for years: my diabetes. The doctor looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Jim, we might need to amputate." Just like that. After surviving a war, I was facing the possibility of losing a limb because I'd been treating my diabetes like it was no big deal. That was my wake-up call. You know, when I was first diagnosed with type 2 diabetes about 15 years ago, I did what a lot of us do. I nodded at the doctor, took the pamphlets, and promptly stuffed them in my drawer when I got home. I'd take my medication sometimes, check my blood sugar when I remembered, which wasn't often. I'd tell myself, I feel fine. What's all the fuss about? I kept eating the same foods I always had. My morning routine included bacon and eggs with toast slathered in butter. Lunch was usually a sandwich with chips. Dinner. Well, my wife Jane makes a mean pot roast with mashed potatoes. And don't get me started on her apple pie. Exercise. That was for people with time on their hands. I'd done enough physical activity in the service to last a lifetime, or so I thought. When my doctor would frown at my A1C numbers, I'd promise to do better. Then I'd walk out and forget about it until the next appointment. It's amazing how good we can get at lying to ourselves, isn't it? Looking back, the signs were all there. My vision would get blurry sometimes, especially after a carb-heavy meal. I chalked it up to getting older. My feet would tingle and sometimes go numb. I figured it was from all those miles humping gear through Vietnam. I was getting up 3, sometimes 4 times a night to use the bathroom. Prostate issues, I told myself. Just part of being a man in his 70s. The cuts and scrapes on my legs started taking longer to heal. One on my ankle stuck around for almost 3 months. Jane kept saying I should show the doctor, but I brushed her off. Then there was the fatigue. I've never been one to take afternoon naps, but suddenly I couldn't make it through the day without one. I blamed it on the medication I was taking for my blood pressure. All these warning signs, and I missed every single one of them. Or maybe I didn't want to see them. Either way, I was heading for trouble. It started with what I thought was just a blister on my right foot. I remember noticing it after breaking in a new pair of work boots. Didn't think much of it at the time. But after a week, instead of healing, it got worse. The skin around it turned red, then started darkening. The pain came next, throbbing constant, keeping me up at night. Jane finally put her foot down, no pun intended. "You're going to the doctor, Jim. Today." No arguments. When the doctor saw my foot, his face changed. He didn't need to say anything. I could read it in his expression. They admitted me to the hospital that same day. Words like infection, poor circulation, and tissue necrosis were thrown around. Then came that moment I mentioned earlier. The doctor sitting down, looking serious, talking about the possibility of amputation if they couldn't get the infection under control. I remember lying in that hospital bed that night, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the things I take for granted. Walking my daughter down the aisle at her wedding. Playing catch with my grandkids in the backyard. Dancing with Jane on our anniversary. And all of it was at risk because I'd been too stubborn, too dismissive of a condition that affects millions of Americans. During my week-long hospital stay, I had a lot of time to read and learn. The doctors were brutally honest with me, which is exactly what I needed. They explained that diabetes doesn't just affect your blood sugar, it impacts your entire body. Diabetic neuropathy, that's what caused the numbness and tingling in my feet. When you can't feel properly, you might not notice cuts or blisters until they're infected. And when you have diabetes, your body's healing response isn't what it should be. Then there's the circulation issues. High blood sugar damages blood vessels over time, reducing blood flow to your extremities. Without proper blood flow, even minor injuries can become serious wounds that won't heal. That's what happened to my foot. The doctors told me about diabetic retinopathy 2, damage to the blood vessels in your eyes that can lead to blindness. Those episodes of blurry vision I'd been having. Early warning signs. And kidney disease, another common complication that can eventually lead to dialysis or kidney transplant. Heart disease, stroke, the list went on and on. I remember thinking, why didn't I take this seriously sooner? But the better question was, what am I going to do about it now? Thankfully, with aggressive treatment, I kept my foot. 6 weeks of antibiotics, special wound care, and a lot of prayer. But I knew I'd dodged a bullet, and I wasn't about to waste this second chance. When I got home, Jane and I sat down at the kitchen table with all the diabetes information we could find. Books, printouts from reputable websites, notes from meetings with the diabetes educator at the hospital. We were starting from scratch, and this time I was all in. First, we tackled my diet. Out went the processed foods, the sugary snacks, the white bread and pasta. In came lean proteins, vegetables, whole grains, and healthy fats. Jane, bless her heart, learned how to remake some of our favorite recipes in diabetes-friendly ways. We discovered that lowering my A1C didn't mean I had to eat like a rabbit. I still enjoy food, maybe even more so because I'm more mindful of what I'm eating. Jane makes this amazing cauliflower crust pizza that I'd put up against any delivery pizza any day of the week. Next came movement. The physical therapist at the hospital showed me simple exercises I could do even with my healing foot. As I recovered, I added more activity, walking around the neighborhood, swimming. At the community center, even some lightweight training to maintain muscle mass. I also got serious about monitoring my blood sugar. No more testing when I remember. Now it's part of my routine, as automatic as brushing my teeth. I keep a log and look for patterns. High reading after breakfast. Maybe I need to adjust what I'm eating in the morning. And those medications I'd been taking sporadically. I set alarms on my phone, use a pill organizer, and never miss a dose now. You know what they say about no man being an island? That's especially true when you're managing a chronic condition like diabetes. I couldn't have made these changes without support. Jane has been my rock through all of this. She changed her cooking, she walks with me every evening, she even reminds me to check my blood sugar if I forget. When you've been married for 47 years, you've got a partner who knows when to push and when to back off. My kids and grandkids have been supportive too. My grandson Mark even created a spreadsheet to help me track my numbers. That boy's always been good with computers. I also joined a diabetes support group at our local hospital. There's something powerful about sitting in a room with people who understand exactly what you're going through. We share tips, frustrations, successes, and sometimes just listen to each other vent. My doctor connected me with a certified diabetes educator who's been invaluable. Sarah, that's her name, has answered countless questions and helped me understand how different foods and activities affect my blood sugar. And I can't forget my Vietnam buddies. We've kept in touch all these years, and it turns out 3 of them also have diabetes. Now, along with swapping war stories when we get together, we compare notes on managing our blood sugar. Who would have thought? It's been 3 years since my foot infection, and I won't pretend every day is perfect. There are still challenges. Some mornings, I wake up with unexplained high numbers despite doing everything right the day before. Diabetes can be frustrating that way. Traveling presents its own challenges. Planning meals, remembering to pack all my supplies, adjusting for time zone changes if we're visiting our daughter in California. But it's doable with preparation. Then there are the social situations. Birthday parties with cake, holiday dinners, eating out at restaurants. I've learned to navigate these without feeling deprived. Sometimes I have a small piece of cake. Other times I'm content to skip the dessert, but enjoy a good protein-rich meal. I've found that stress affects my blood sugar too. When our youngest granddaughter was in the hospital with pneumonia last winter, my numbers were all over the place despite keeping to my usual routine. Now I make stress management part of my diabetes care. Deep breathing, meditation, even some of the mindfulness techniques they taught us for PTSD back in the VA hospital. Sleep is another factor I never considered before. When I don't get enough sleep, my blood sugar tends to run higher the next day. So my bedtime routine is as important as my diet or exercise plan. The thing about diabetes is that it touches every part of your life. But that doesn't mean it has to control your life. I still do the things I love, fishing with my buddies, woodworking in my shop, taking road trips with Jane. I just do them with more awareness now. When I was admitted to the hospital with that foot infection, my A1C was 10.2%. For those who aren't familiar, that's dangerously high. It means my average blood sugar level over the previous 3 months was way above where it should be. At my checkup 6 months after leaving the hospital, my A1C was down to 7.8%. Better, but still not in the target range my doctor wanted. A year later, it was 6.9%. And at my most recent appointment, 6.3%. That's within the target range for someone my age. My doctor was practically doing cartwheels. He said he wishes all his patients could see this kind of improvement. But here's the thing, there's no magic to it. Just consistent, daily choices that add up over time. My blood pressure has improved too. It used to run around 150/90, now it's typically around 128/78. My cholesterol numbers are better as well. I've lost 27 pounds without ever feeling like I was on a diet. My energy levels are higher than they've been in years. But the number I'm most proud of isn't on any lab report. It's the number of steps I take each day. When I first started walking for exercise after my hospitalization, I could barely make it to the end of our driveway without getting winded. Now I average 8,000 steps a day. Not bad for a 75-year-old Vietnam vet who almost lost his foot. If I could go back and give my newly diagnosed self some advice, here's what I'd say. First, diabetes is serious, but it's not a death sentence. It's a condition you can manage with the right approach. Second, small changes add up. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start with one thing, maybe switching from regular soda to water, or walking for 10 minutes after dinner. Master that, then add something else. Third, testing your blood sugar isn't just about getting a number to report to your doctor. It's information that can help you understand how different foods and activities affect your body. It's a tool, not a judgment. Fourth, educate yourself from reliable sources. There's a lot of misinformation out there, especially on the internet. Your healthcare team can point you toward trustworthy resources. Fifth, find your motivation. Mine was wanting to be around to see my grandkids grow up, to have more years with Jane. Whatever yours is, keep it front and center when making choices. Sixth, forgive yourself for slip-ups. They happen to everyone. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. And finally, never underestimate the power of support. Whether it's family, friends, or a formal support group, having people in your corner makes all the difference. Over these past few years, I've collected a toolbox of practical strategies that help me manage my diabetes day to day. Let me share some of them with you. For meal planning, I use the plate method half-my. Plate is non-starchy vegetables, a quarter is protein, and a quarter is carbohydrates. It's simple and doesn't require measuring or weighing food. I keep a food journal, not every day, but whenever my blood sugar starts trending higher. It helps me identify patterns and make adjustments. For exercise, consistency matters more than intensity. A 20-minute walk every day is better than an hour-long workout once a week. I always carry a small snack with me in case my blood sugar drops. A handful of almonds or a cheese stick works well for me. When eating out, I look at the menu online beforehand, so I can plan my meal without being tempted by less healthy options. For monitoring blood sugar, I test at different times of day to get a complete picture. Before breakfast, 2 hours after a meal, before and after exercise, each gives different information. I use a pill organizer with morning and evening compartments for each day of the week. It takes the guesswork out of whether I've taken my medication. I've learned to check my feet daily, using a mirror to see the bottoms if I can't bend well enough. Any cuts, blisters, or red areas get immediate attention. For managing stress, I've found that simply stepping outside and taking 10 deep breaths can make a difference in the moment. And perhaps most importantly, I celebrate victories, no matter how small. A good A1C reading, a week of consistent exercise, finding a new diabetes-friendly recipe I enjoy, they all deserve acknowledgement. You know, when I was in Vietnam, we had a saying, "Keep your head down and your powder dry." It meant stay alert, be prepared. Managing diabetes isn't so different. It's about vigilance, preparation, and not taking unnecessary risks. But there's joy in the journey too. I've discovered new foods I love. I've reconnected with old friends through our shared experience. I've even found a new appreciation for this body of mine that's carried me through war and peace for 75 years. If you're watching this and you've been diagnosed with diabetes, whether it was yesterday or 20 years ago, know that it's never too late to take control. I'm living proof of that. The changes you make today could save your foot, your eyesight, or even your life tomorrow. And if you love someone with diabetes who's been in denial like I was, share this video with them. Sometimes hearing another person's story can break through in a way that medical advice alone can't. For those of you already managing your diabetes well, keep it up. Your daily choices matter. And consider sharing your knowledge with others. We're all in this fight together. Before I go, I want to thank you for spending this time with me. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing to Diabetes Day by Day for more stories and practical advice. We post new videos every week on topics like lowering your A1C naturally, diabetes-friendly recipes, and healthy lifestyle changes, with a special focus on senior diabetes care. This is Jim signing off. Remember, diabetes is part of your life, but it doesn't have to be your whole life. Stay strong, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay in the fight.